Welcome back to Bigger and Louder with Anthony and John. It's Johnny D.
And Big Tony.
We are fresh off of Roadhouse. We can't get enough of it. Anthony, let's just kick it right off. For those of you that were with us last episode, Anthony and I, Bigger and Louder, we were invited to the one and only screening of this show in Los Angeles. This, unfortunately, will not be getting and did not get a theatrical release. So why?
Boo.
I'm with you on that, and we're going to touch on in this episode as well on our opinion on theatrical releases of films. But we had an excellent time. Big thank you to Inside Karate and Inside Kung Fu Magazine for hosting us. It was an incredible event. We got to meet some Kung Fu and karate legends, Eric Lee, Benny the Jet Urquidez, who we're going to show some clips of, credited with to be the first ever fighter in a scene to lick the blood off his mouth and then knock somebody out. I also got to meet Art Camacho, who's directed countless number of Kung Fu and karate films.
All right, so here's the thing. I think I told you my thoughts on the first Roadhouse, which we're not going to dive into, but I will say this. After you've given me your full approval of like your satisfaction with the film, bit the fucking bullet, sat down, and I have to say I was entertained. I thought I was really going to hate it, and I didn't hate it. I actually was entertained from start to finish. Yeah, that I think they could have done something a little more different than the first one, other than making some side references and on and off references to the first one. Don't know if you actually caught the name of the bar in the first movie, in this movie, when he walked up to the strip mall, but the Double Deuce is actually mentioned in the next door to where the girl's father's shop is, the bookstore that they own, right? Nice. The Double Deuce is that was a piece of homage. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think they overhammed it too much. You know, Jake Gyllenhaal has some PTSD. You know, you'll find out how and why. But again, I was like, I think they could have done a better job here. The one thing I have to point out for this movie is then if you had seen the first one, it's like the same wound that Patrick Swayze gets on the side of his ribs. It's funny how they do the exact same injury to him in the beginning of the movie. I'm like, it couldn't have been his arm or his neck or just something slightly. Here's my
I
rule
disagree. I totally love it, but yeah, give me your
again. Rule. If you love it, you love it. Here's my rule: it's either you do a complete like a remake of it and really keep hard truth, points of the movie and just carry them over 30 years later, or you can try and kind of like hint at it, but just kind of do it in a different direction, right? It's like I felt this movie was half and half. It was touching on the old movie, but trying to do its own thing. What I will say though was pretty cool in the movie is when it was funny because I thought I was going to call bullshit on this, but again, this is not going to spoil anything. There's a scene when him and the girl take a ride on a boat, and he's like, "Where are we going?" She's like, "I'll show you." And I thought, I swear to you, she was going to take a boat to Cuba. And I'm like, bullshit, because this was the exact scene in Miami Vice, the movie that came out in 2007 with Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell. I'm like, this is complete bullshit. And they actually didn't do it. So I'm happy they stopped. And what they actually did was actually kind of unique. So I will say, very happy they didn't try to make an attempt to go to Cuba for some mojitos.
The one thing that I wanted to say is I think, Jake Gyllenhaal, he got in shape again, just like he did for the movie Southpaw. I think he was believable. I think he was funny. It brought a lightheartedness and authenticity to the role that I think both of you and I, as being former bouncers, can really appreciate. Where Patrick Swayze, I felt like maybe was a little bit too cold. I think Jake Gyllenhaal had a relatableness and a connection with the people that he was talking to, like in the bar and ushering them out, right? I think that he was able to really get me to buy in that he had done that before.
I get it, but like Cole, I don't think Patrick Swayze was cold, man. I mean, listen, did you not hear him in the first team meeting? He's like, all he did was instruct his team, hey, listen, everyone's going to be nice. He's like, if the guy gets in your face, I want you to be nice. If he refuses, you escort him to the door, and I still want you to be nice. He's like, you just be nice the whole way through.
Nice is one thing, Anthony, but I feel like it's a way that you can break down a wall between, a customer or connect with the customer, and you can be nice and be a good salesman, right? But I felt Jake Gyllenhaal to me was a real good salesman. He would be a good bouncer, I think.
I guess. I mean, like I was watching the whole way. I'm trying to see like the whole. But here's the thing: the director is the one who chose like how to direct him, and like here, I want you to do this or I want you to do that. And he kind of went with it, but like I never once saw him actually interact in a way where he gave a customer, like, hey, strike one, strike two, and then like, okay, strike three, we're going out of here. Because again, the first scene, he's like, which one of those bikes is yours? Oh, they're all ours. Okay, he just walks on out, and they just follow him on out, and then he's like, hey, Mary, how far is the hospital? Okay, and is there a cab nearby? Okay, and just by any chance, did you guys have a self? It's just like
I love that. I love it. It was comedic. That's what I think brought that comedic element to it and that relatableness, because here he is giving these guys every chance to get away, saying, hey, like, you know, playing it down, being cool, cracking jokes. I wanted to add too that I think that the I'm going to remember his name, Arturo Castro, who played Mo, who is he's Guatemalan, you know, shout out to our Guatemalans out there. But he, I thought, brought so many good lines. He's like, yeah, that's our bikes. Mine's the red one on the end. Or when he's setting up the hammock, and the guy comes in, Brant comes in, and he goes, what are you doing? He's, what, you told us to make ourselves at home. I loved it. I thought he was making me crack up, and
it was
really,
a comic relief.
Like, broke some tension. Like, it was great. He did a great job. And I will say this, and I will also say that every single person I interviewed, every fighting legend, every former or current mixed martial art champion, fight choreographer, and general attendee said, Mr. Conor McGregor has a career in acting after this.
Just like that, Mr. Conor McGregor, just like that. Are you purposely making fun of his accent? Was that like an accent?
No, he kicked ass, dude. No, I mean, yes, I'm not making fun of it. Like, the guy was great. He came in and I thought was playing a character of himself, and that to me killed it. Plus, the fighting was brutal. Like, he was so believable in these scenes as being some, nut job fighter who, was just ready to kill at any moment. So, shout out to Conor. Yeah. That was awesome.
So here's like also, I think also like some critique and something I thought like just nitpicking, but I thought they missed an opportunity to do something kind of cool, but whatever. So right towards, I think at 48 minutes or about 55 minutes into the film, there's really like the tension between Conor McGregor comes into the scene with Jake Gyllenhaal, and he's got to clean up the bar. And it's just like, okay, McGregor's doing his thing on the side, beating people up. Jake Gyllenhaal's beating his people up in the right, and it's just like how these two are gonna come right. What I thought would have been really cool was it's like I forgot this type of angle kind of action, but all you do is just see the two of them just beat the shit out of every single guy in the bar, just trying to get closer to and the camera just spins around and around, like from a different point of view, if you can imagine. Like they did this in Bad Boys 2. They do this selectively in certain films, like get a point across and like to look at it from the angle of like two different personas. And it's like you have Jake Gyllenhaal cleaning house, you got McGregor cleaning house, and it's just like, it was just like it happened too soon between the two of them got together and started kicking ass. I thought it would have been really cool. Again, like McGregor's taking out 10 guys, and then Jake Gyllenhaal's taking out 15 guys, and just watching the camera just go around in circles until like they get to each other. Let's do it. Like, it's just like
that's a fair point. I would have liked to see more non-Conor versus Jake, and Conor versus others and Jake versus others. That could be, the one critique that I had, but it was like, I really felt from at least like the bar standpoint, like those fights were like pretty believable. There were like, some like comedic type of like hits and like, bottle breakings and chair, over the back. But otherwise, like I thought like, man, they are keeping this like in the realm of major bar fight, just similar to the first one, definitely with respect to that.
I mean, like I said, I didn't hate it. Liked it. It was entertaining. Would I sit down and watch it again? If I had a couple of beers with some guys. I will say though, like Gyllenhaal got in great shape for the film. I like to just know who his trainer is. Listen, it's not easy to lose. Listen, even Stallone said like to look like that day in and day out. Like once you've actually hit that sort of benchmark, he's like, it's very impossible to stay like that. It's like ridiculous the amount of like training you have to do.
The dedication.
Right. It's like, it's not feasible. It's like, you're only looking like that unless, yes, you're playing for a part or you're trying to do like a photo shoot but to look that lean and with the stripes and cuts, it's like not like if you actually look at Jake Gyllenhaal to McGregor, it's like, they're built up guys, but like McGregor didn't really have any lines in him. He was built more like lean and just like hard muscle. Whereas Gyllenhaal, you knew he had like he had like 6 abs, he had like the chiseled chest, and you could see his deltoids. But he said like that's not feasible to look like that all year round. You're gonna start.
They even make a joke about it. Where Connor first shows up to the house with all the crew, and he goes right for the plate of sandwiches, and he goes, "We've got a problem. We're out of sandwiches. I need more sandwiches." I love that part. He was, again, funny as fuck, man. So that was awesome. But Anthony, like, let me close it on this one, because I think this is what we wanted to really get to. Like, we love the movie, and I'm quite frankly upset that you wouldn't get to watch it in the theater. Are you satisfied with having watched this at home, or do you wish you got to watch it on the big screen with me?
No, I'm happy I got to watch it at home. I mean, shorthand, happy I got to watch it at home. What I've like, honestly, if that had actually made a commercial, theatrical, like commercial being like coming in theaters near you, I still would not have seen in theaters. I would have waited for it to come out on the apps before I actually were to see it. Yep. Because honestly, before you even told me about it, I'm like, the second I see like another type of reboot, remake, whatever you want to call it, I'm just like, oh, please help us all. Like, how are they going to screw this up or try and pretend that the people who saw the first ones are not still alive in their youth and they're going to make a hard comparison? But no, short answers, I still would have waited. Definitely.
Well, I think the director, Doug Liman, would disagree with you, because I think we were alluding to this in an earlier episode where, he originally signed on with MGM to make this film, and MGM releases their films theatrically. They don't go direct to streamer. And he was very disappointed that when Amazon bought MGM, they changed their strategy, which, unfortunately is in their right to do so, and limited this to the direct to streaming release. I mean, I won't get into some of the direct quotes from his scathing editorial letter on Deadline, but he basically hit what we said on the head directly. And I haven't read this before, but when we were talking about tentpole movies, he literally referenced them and said, if streamers or studios do not release these big blockbuster like action movies or tentpole movies into theaters will evaporate. We were pretty lucky to survive, like, I think, post-COVID, man. Theaters shut down for the better part of 2 years, and now we're coming back, and there was a surge in them because, big time movies were released. Like, I remember first going back to see Top Gun Maverick, when Tom Cruise and Paramount, saved that for a theatrical release. Like, they could have just dropped that shit on their app, but they didn't. They saved it. I know Christopher Nolan, the same thing. He had a couple releases that were, in theaters, and it brought people back. So I'm a little bit nervous, especially being in the entertainment industry and having suffered through this. These layoffs come when the revenues from ticket sales aren't there. So I would just strongly urge our, studios, especially the big six, and, Netflix, get your movies there. Some of these are great. Throw them in theaters. Let's go see them, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. To your point, and again, I didn't think we are going to spend too much time on this, but I have to mention this because it's like top of mind. But I think you are right. I agree. This is one thing I'm going to agree with you. I do believe movie theaters are going to be going away the dinosaurs, because the internet is like, a virus. It's constantly mutating to a point where it's like we've gone from like streaming to, to just, again, I don't even know where the hell we're at in terms of just like where the whole entertainment industry is. But right, I agree with you. I think the way the world is and where we're going in the next 3 to 5 years, especially with where AI is and how that's going to play a game as that starts to blossom, I agree. It's going to go. And a way to, another example to this, and Matt Damon talked about this on that show where, what the fuck's that show they do with they eat wings and they just talk about absolute nonsense. What's that show on YouTube? Hot Wings. Okay. So Matt Damon even said this in an interview. He's like, for actors, the direct to home release was a big part of their money, how they made money, because they knew like you would see it in theaters, and 3 months later that film would be then released on like, DVD, or like Blu-ray at the time, or if you had VHS, they knew that was going to happen. And that was actually how actors got a lot of extra money towards their salary for them to do other endeavors and, budget pictures and things like that. And he said, like, well, because of where the internet is, that's all gone. So actually a big chunk of actor's salary has been removed now. So therefore, he said, it's really difficult for them to kind of do any type of artsy kind of work. So there, a lot of times these actors are actually financing these films themselves out of their own budget, taking a gamble with the movie with the people who make these movies. And he said, like, and he's like, we can't do any type of like artsy projects anymore because it's not, they know it's not going to probably sell as well as what you pointed out, like the what would you call it, the pipe tent, the tent pipe, the
tent pole,
the tent pole movies. He's like, Columbia Pictures is not going to pay them to do an artsy film anymore because they know they want them to do the bigger budget.
Well, that's just not true. So that's just factually incorrect. Like, Matt, Mr. Damon, if you're out there, like, I do agree that there were more consistent what we call it as like participations and residuals, because that, like, and I'll explain it overall in a second here, dude, but that hasn't necessarily gone away. It's just the window, what we call it, a window, has changed. And that's going to, or it's evolving perpetually. Like, it's never going to stop changing, especially like you said, with the rise of streamers, but also when what they call a day and date, they release the movie simultaneously and theatrically and on a streaming platform, which is something that we did see a lot during COVID. But what I don't really get, and I'm not educated enough on the union side of things with SAG and all of the writers guilds to understand, but I worked specifically in distribution, which is literally the sale of IP to all of the platforms. So whatever company that would take their content, shop it around to whether it's linear television, like we would flip through back in the day and see a movie on TBS or WB on a Saturday, or Comedy Central late at night, to the airplanes, to Netflix, HBO, and Paramount, and some all the other ones around the world. But what I think Matt is saying is they're not getting the same cut of all that streaming revenue that what we model out for over 10 years can accrue to. And I thought that during all of these renegotiations that they would have fought for that a little bit harder, but they just didn't. They didn't get those concessions, because what's essentially happened, Anthony, is that second window, right? The first window in a 10-year model of a film or television asset, is that either on television it's called first run, where it's going to show up on likely a broadcast network, or first run in a theater, historically anyway, right? That second window is when it hits physical media, where home entertainment window, exactly. That physical media, back in the day, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, or what they now call EST, or electronic sell-through. And that's when you get to buy it like on iTunes and Vudu, like, again, for $19.99, $25,
or even on Amazon. $30.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, again,
on all
like
those different platforms.
To your point, and again, just because, like, I mean, here's the thing: he's in the business. He's not making this shit up. Otherwise, why would he say it? But something, right? Like, if you're saying what I think you're saying, which is like, right, like Netflix or the other streaming apps, HBO or Amazon, are not getting these actors a cut. Probably right, because at the end of the day, like, Paramount Pictures, Universal Studios, Columbia Pictures, etc. Like, they're at the end of the day, like, they're the ones making movies, and they're probably collaborating with other apps and being like, okay, like, we can get these actors to work for probably peanuts. And right, like, they're not entitled to a part of your business, because at the end of the day, they don't own the film on which we agreed, on which how we share them on Netflix or anywhere else. And therefore, it's like, okay, and then to his point, like, well, guess what? Like, we don't, like, that was probably the agreement when Universal Studios released it out to purchase, when it was physically you can actually hold in your hand, and that was like, okay, the actor gets a cut of it because they're helping push this. They have expenses and costs of getting it out there and sales and things like that. But right, like, Netflix has no obligation to the actors, right? They have no obligation to the actors. Yeah,
I agree, and like, that's where, like, the capitalistic piece of our economy and this business and entertainment business, like any other, works, right? Like, their real obligation is what they contractually sign up for when they're filming that production.
You're at will, basically. They have no ties to you. It's like gone tomorrow.
Unfortunately, like that's really what it is. Like once, obviously if they get signed into a contract, they're going to get paid for whatever that was. But those rights on the back end, like, they call
residual. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, those back end. Actually, quickly, shout out to Maeve's Residuals, which is now just called Residuals over here in Studio City, LA. They had a program for I don't even know how long, where they would take, no matter how small, a residual check, whether it was 2 cents or $200 from all the working actors in the area. They could come in and just, show their residual stub and they would get a free drink, so that I don't know if that's still going on, but that just reminded me of it.
Do you know who actually I think, and before we go into our next segment, who actually I think the shit that's going to be, actually, if it's not already there and I haven't done my homework, is actually TV stars. And the reason being is because the reruns is where they make money on the reruns. Like the cast of Friends, like they did 10-year stint, right? And that show is still being aired across other channels, and they have to get probably a cut of that to show their, I don't know what you want to call them, out a lawyer in the field, their likeness, their agreement to keep showing their faces on as a result. And therefore they may not be getting like a hefty check, but they get something on the side to be like, okay, like every time we air an episode for the full year, here's $5,000 for this first week that we show the first 8 episodes again. You know what I mean? Like I think that's where the money's going to be for TV actors.
But that's different now. That model has changed. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at. That model has changed. They don't, or when I say they, but walk it back, channels, networks, like let's just take like the big 3 right now, right? There's like CBS, NBC, and ABC.
Mm-hmm.
Those networks, of course, air live content and have big shows. Let's ask a question here, Anthony. Do you know what really dictates and drives what that demand is for a product? Why would a network want to air a show on its network? What?
I got the answer for you. It's 2 reasons. And the first one, which is the runner-up, which is going to be sponsorship. But the second one, which is going to be the main reason, is product placement. That's what they're trying to push out. They want you
both. That's one and the same. Ad sales.
Right. Well, ad sales, but ad sales and like having a can of Pepsi on the back, or maybe like having someone wear Nike windbreaker, right? If that's even the thing anymore. Like that's like the hard.
Have someone drink Mount Palomar wine.
Mount Palomar. Is that from the hills of Napa Valley there? Did you go up to Napa?
This is from the hills of Temecula Valley. Temecula Valley, Southern California. As a matter of fact, I will share with everybody. This is the bootleg. Yo, if you've never been to the Temecula Valley, Anthony, like you better.
How dare I? How dare I?
Yeah, because let me just tell you, it is the Napa Valley of SoCal. It's beautiful. There's casinos. We go to Mount Palomar, and I used to be in the club. I'm not in the club anymore.
Wait.
Last bottle. I got the beautiful bottle here of the Mount Palomar 2017 autumnal equinox. So we had a fall-ish day where it was cold and rainy here in SoCal. So yes, I'm drinking some fucking wine.
Because for a second there, because you're going so fast, I thought you said like Mount Malamar, like what, like Malamar chocolates? Like what, do you fucking people going there eating fucking chocolates? What the fuck? Anywho, so
are you a snowballs guy? Speaking of like the Malamars, like I used to hate those like coconut snowballs. Did you like those?
I don't recall, but like I like coconut chocolate. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I don't mind it.
Yeah. Like an Almond Joy. You're that fucking guy that likes Almond Joy.
I like Almond Joy. That's pretty good. Yeah, Almond Joy.
All right.
I mean, I get people like coconut. Whatever. I mean, listen, I like Stovers, like those chocolates with all the fillings, and then I do eat the.
What's your favorite candy bar? Like I don't eat candy bars anymore. I'm fat enough. But what's your favorite candy bar?
Favorite candy bar? My goodness. Oh my goodness. I can't say it's my favorite candy. Well, Reese's has got to be my favorite. It's not a candy bar, but like that's gonna be my favorite. Reese's. I mean, it's just like sinful. It's chocolate and peanut butter together. And actually, yes. Are you applauding because it's like, how dare I? Or like, yes, I agree.
No, I can't believe it. But yes, fucking Reese's. I cannot believe it. Reese's.
Don't, if Reese's in this house, like it's like gone. And like the second it enters this house, because it's just like so sinful. It's just like,
I used to love Reese's Pieces. Friendlies, if you remember, used to
not the same
have
taste. Yeah.
no, not the same taste, but it added like a nice peanut butter flavor to the ice cream. So I used to love that. But before I really got into Reese's, like I was going to say Butterfinger, only because it's
Bart Simpson was on there pushing the product.
no, because of the peanut butter. Like I love that flavor, but I would take a Reese's any day.
Oh, fuck yeah. Literally,
That's
like
cool.
you can actually grind up a Reese's and put it on anything, like whether you put in your like grind it up on ice cream, your coffee, you could sniff it. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that people are doing that right now. But no, like literally, like that's actually my preferred chalk first and second going forward. Yeah.
So the other thing that we wanted to talk about today too, because at the last second, I think it was about 6:30, 7:00 my time here in Los Angeles. I text Anthony and I say, "Hey, Anthony, this morning starts the NCAA men's and women's tournaments.
But
Let's go
the
out."
basketball, but I said no, it's NBA. Sorry, I don't know what the NCAA is.
I said, let's fill out a bracket. It's content for our show. It'll be fun. We can do it. Sign up via danpatrick.com and follow us on our bracket challenge, and we'll participate and share how we're doing.
Yep.
Tell them what happened, Anthony. Did you do it? Did you get it done?
Well, I said to John's instructions when he texted me at 10 o'clock that morning, he's like, listen, you have 30 minutes to actually get on and create a bracket. Well, within that 30-minute time frame, I get on the website and the brackets are all closed. Oh, fuck me. I'm shit out of luck. But my wife actually ended up creating a bracket, so I'm actually using hers right now just to show you that I'm a good sport and trying to use the back door here. So I ended up using her brackets, and she's fucking killing it right now. So I'm actually just using up her fucking brackets. And I honestly, man, I had no idea. Like, listen, I know Super Bowl, pre-Super Bowl, and if you follow NFL, like the free agency is always a big thing that first week when it comes out. I had no idea like NCAA March Madness. Well, I knew it was big, but like as a prelude to like the Final Four was like everyone like gamble about which team do you think is going to make into the Final 10 or to the Final, however the fuck it works. But no, I had no idea it was like a big thing like this, No idea.
Well, you would be the one because the rest of America and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are filling out brackets. And if you've been following us on Instagram at Bigger and Louder Podcast, you would know that we came out the gate on fucking fire. I had hit 15 of 16 picks on the first day, or excuse me, 14 of 16 picks on the first day, missing only Washington State winning and, of course, Oakland. Because nobody saw Oakland upset.
Okay, John, I got to ask then. I have got to ask this question. It's a fair question. Did you have the computer auto-generate your picks? Yes or no?
Oh, absolutely not. So I wish I recorded this. I wish I recorded this too, because I keep forgetting, because we haven't done a bracket in so long, that they no longer have just 32 teams. It's 64 teams and about to probably go up to, almost 100 teams or, 96 at least. So I get through and I'm like, okay, let me really spend some time up here on this top bracket, these first 32 teams. So picking UConn, come in, pick San Diego State, did not pick Yale, pick Duquesne, had Illinois winning, of course, and was coming down to the wire saying, should I go with another upset and pick Drake? Yes, I picked Drake. So, and of course, Washington State ended up winning.
My father-in-law, to your picks, he's actually on the edge of his seat. He actually, many years ago, went to grad school at Duquesne, and I've been on that university near Pittsburgh. It's actually a pretty cool school if you can handle hills, which I can't, but he's actually rooting all the way for his alma mater. My first go-ahead is always going to be Duke. That's always like blue, go white, blue, Duke. Just because, I don't know. I wasn't a Leitner fan, but I just remember being a kid. That's all you heard in the 90s. It was like Leitner this and Christian Leitner that. And ironically, it's funny how with the March Madness.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Whoa, what?
Not Duke.
Yeah.
Duquesne.
No,
Duquesne.
Duke. No, Duke.
What the fuck are you talking about? But I'm talking about Duquesne, not Duke.
No, I just made a side comment. Then like my father-in-law went to Duquesne, and I switched it over to Duke. So sorry for like the two schools being so close together in name. So yeah,
sorry for them both having Duke in the way.
yeah, just like Duquesne. Is that French? Is that French Canadian?
I mean, it must be because it has a Q in there. So I assume every word with a Q is French. But just to go through to compare our final fours, Anthony. So right now, overall, I was doing pretty well. I've got 33 of 34 correct picks. When I went on to danpatrick.com, which is run through Fox Sports. So currently, if you look at all the leaderboards, Jim Boeheim, the former Syracuse coach, who the fuck is Anthony, get the fuck out. Put him in the bathroom. Put him in the bathroom.
Listen, everyone, that's how far removed I am from like the world. Literally, I have no idea. Yeah, sorry.
Right now, Jim Boeheim is in first place with 46 points. John D. And we're not bigger and louder. Was not invited to the to the VIP group.
We were not invited. We're currently,
we are currently in 8th place with 42 points. So I'm not doing too bad. I've got 11 picks that I've missed. But we're hanging in there. Now, just to go through our final four, Anthony, I'd like to compare them because I now have all my eggs in a very specific basket.
You put them in the basket, you're like confident, you're feeling like, okay, it's either hit or miss. It's like red or black, baby.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I took Kentucky to go to the Final Four.
Yeah, but I think it's an upset.
Yeah, so I'm blown out there, but I have Purdue, Arizona, and UConn.
Okay.
So we'll beat the cliffhanger on who we have going to the finals. But Anthony, who does Alex have at her Final Four?
Oh man, I think she put Yale in there for some reason as like the big upset for some round. I think Oakland upset Kentucky, so that's like her big upset. If I gotta go ahead and ask her.
I did pick, and shout out to my cousin David, JMU to come out of the first round over Wisconsin, but I do have them losing to Duke in the second round. And then I have Duke losing to Houston. So that's where I think, they might run into some trouble. Houston's a pretty good team. I'm not going to pretend I know any players on there, but, from what I've just, seen and read, I think they're coming out hot. So I've got, Houston beating Duke. Who else did you say? Who else did you? I
got UConn, Duke.
Oh, UConn. Yeah,
North Carolina, and Gonzaga.
I am all about UConn. I think UConn's great. I do believe, especially after watching March Madness and being pretty dedicated to it. Shout out to the UAlbany Danes.
Woo, woo.
The past 10 years who haven't made the tournament in almost 10 years. But I think this one and done that we've seen in college basketball where, right now there's like a hot high school star. These 5-star athletes, they're making mixtapes. Like, if and one was still dropping things like, if the professor who's still dropping his videos, which are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if these guys were, still doing that, they would be all over these mixtapes. And they go to college, they excel, they do great, and then they get, have eyes on the NBA. That's not necessarily the formula right now for winning championships anymore because of what, is in every sport, the transfer portal, right? We've got that transfer portal out there. So a lot of these coaches, especially the old time coaches who dominated, especially college basketball for so long, they need to adapt. They need to start looking and saying, oh shit, I don't just need to recruit like a freshman or a senior in high school, a junior in high school. I've got to be looking to go to other schools and be recruiting constantly. It's like 4 years of recruiting an athlete that, you might not have gotten over to your school. And I think like that's kind of like diluting the product. So schools like UConn that over the past decade haven't necessarily been signing those top tier 5-star blue chip players. They've got these guys that have been there for 3-4 years. They play as a team. These dudes love each other, man. They fucking die for each other out there.
At the
and
Fab Five,
that, to me, is what I want to see. Exactly. I want college basketball to be about the longevity now. Great. Have those flash in the pan dudes that we can bring to the NBA. NBA's got a great product, getting better. It's getting a little bit tighter. I think the fouls are still out of control, but college basketball, to me, all about the tournament. Let's focus and get these teams to be fucking powerhouses again, like we did in the 80s and 90s, right?
Well, listen, I think it's going to evolve again. Like everyone says, like the 90s was like prime when basketball from scholastic or professional was like when you want to watch it. And the game is transcendent to where it's just like everyone's just hopping from team to team and just like getting these power teams up. And then it's like here today, gone tomorrow. You can blame LeBron James for all that shit. And you're not changing my mind about that. He's going to actually start all this fucking shit. Anywho, right. I do believe and I'm in agreement with you. Is I do that. Players just if they can transfer to, let's say, if you're at some slack school in the Midwest and you have some talent to play for a UConn or Purdue or a North Carolina and they have some interest, just transfer on over. I mean, look what happened to who was it? That Brady Quinn in football. It was it happens all the time, right? If you want to move to another school, I think it was even Herschel Walker is the one who also going back. We're going way back, but even he transferred schools because he wasn't really happy. He went to another school. And Larry Bird, same thing. When he was in college, he bounced out. He's like, no, I don't want to be here. Just new place to go. Anyway.
Yeah. So we have a long way to go, but I'm still going to be follow our Instagram at Bigger and Louder podcast. We're going to be updating you on all of our NCAA tournament progress. Hopefully we hang in there and at least place in the top 10 in some of this. And if not, it'll just be fun to fuck around because we had absolutely no idea what we're doing.
Nope.
So
not
thank
one
you
bit.
guys very much. Now we're going to try to spice it up again. We're going to keep the wild cards coming. We came up with a new segment. And I want to thank Anthony because he was so pissed off that the name just kind of jumped right into my head.
It came out.
We're going to introduce the very first Get the Fuck Out of Here segment. And what this is going to entail is either Johnny D here or Anthony are going to pick a topic, a subject, a person, a group of people, that we simply cannot stand. So, Anthony, thank you very much for being brave enough. Thank you for stepping up to the plate with our very first Get the Fuck Out of Here segment. Big Tony is coming at you. Anthony, who do you got to say? Who do you got to tell off?
All right. Listen, folks, first ever Get the Fuck Out of Here moment. I got to take Get the Fuck Out of Here to you flat earthers out there, man. Listen, I think you fuckers need your damn heads fucking examined. You fucking lunatics need to fucking readjust your expectations and really go down and sit and read a book. Because the fact that you still believe that the earth is still flat and even more so believe it's a stage in which the sun is on some magical lamppost that rotates around it's whatever you want to call it is bullshit. So all you fuckers can go fuck yourself and literally get a fucking life. Again, the reason why I bring it up is because I was sitting around just reading an article and somehow flat earthers came up again. And again, this is a big thing that came out, several years ago. If you haven't seen the documentary, it's called Behind the Curve. John, you ever see that documentary Behind the Curve?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's absolutely fucking. You leave that intrigued, but you lose some brain cells knowing the fact that these people can legally vote. And again,
my thoughts exactly.
It's unfucking real. I mean, let's be serious. The reason why it gets brought up again because it's just so mind-boggling that a large group of people, and thank you to the power of the internet, can reach other people who are very naive and can be easily influenced, buy into this fucking bullshit. And the reality is that they just want to be part of something, right? They want to believe that they're unique. They fucking believe that they're the ones who get it and nobody else does. And in the end of the day, it's just a fucking hangout session for people just to talk about how cool they are and why they want more attention. But the reality is they're just trying to fucking get money out of all this, whether they want to admit to it or not. And when I was watching the documentary again, because I saw it, I watched it again just to kind of refamiliarize it. The biggest thing they were always arguing is how come, well, first they actually questioned about the Earth's axis, how the Earth will change, rotate 24 hours. And they said well, they wanted to get their hands on an expensive gyroscope that the, aerospace uses, right? That proves for every 1 hour, the Earth turns 15 degrees. And when they actually got their hands on this thing, first of all, they said we're going to debunk it. Like, it doesn't really work the way it does, and it did. And then they decided to, retest it again. Right? It's like, okay, that experiment failed. Then they said, well, maybe the wind's hitting it the wrong way. We're going to put into a chamber, right, and let it run its axis again. And still, the results were coming up again. And again, they just kept coming these oddball, loopy experiments that had no justification to it, but it was morally just trying to prove a fact. And again, this really comes down to like conspiracy theorists, right? It's like, there's an endless rabbit hole that you can just not, it never ends. It just keeps going and going and going and going. And guess what? It's like, if you're an idiot, if you're not looking where you're walking, you're going to fall into that rabbit hole. You know what I mean? And again, going back to like, fucking, I always go back to South Park because they're my guys, man. We always go back to like John Edwards, right? Like, I think I mentioned him a couple of times on the show. If you don't remember who he is the guy that claims he can talk to the dead. If you remember that, okay. And according to South Park, they said that he is the universe's largest douchebag in the fucking universe, because he literally has people believing that, he can talk to the dead. And the point of the story is like, the creators of South Park were talking about this. Yeah, it's stupid. Their staff doesn't believe it. They're like, oh yeah, John Edwards, he's full of shit. He's always talking about this whole thing's a hoax, and it's all bullshit. But my aunt knows someone who can really do it, though. And the reality is, like, you're never going to convince everybody, because they all want to believe what they want to believe when they want to think about it, just because they're in a moment, they're in the mood. And sometimes they believe this bullshit for a short term, sometimes it's forever. But listen, for you flat earthers out there, listen, get a fucking life, read a book, do something else with your time, stop fucking manipulating people into this bullshit, because guess what? You are dumbing the world as we speak. So fuck you. So I guess, John, to put it simply, the people that come up with this bullshit just want to feel important, and they don't know another constructive way to do it that seems to sort of like relate on a fair playing view or a fair game. It's just like, let me just come up with something, tell everybody else this is the truth, and like, we're gonna do our thing over here, and if you don't follow our world, well, you fuckers are the actual assholes, and you're the problem. It's just like, we're gonna believe in our own shit, basically.
Right? Yeah. Well, I will agree that, yes, I feel it, that it's like this, whether it's to feel important or not, whatever, but to feel validated. And like, maybe this is a good place for us to wrap it up, with, Johnny's inspirational quote. You don't need that shit. You don't need to be fucking validated. You don't need anybody anywhere telling you that you are anything less than you think that you are. You don't need to believe in some outlandish shit or start questioning things that are like settled fact for millennia, which AKA thousands of years. I think anybody that needs to get caught up in that, like, don't worry about it, man. Put that bullshit to the side. Come back to the masses. Yeah. Come back to earth.
Listen, listen, that sounds like a great idea, but unfortunately the internet is not going anywhere anytime soon. So if it's not flat earthers, someone's going to believe the actual sun is really made out of a fucking lemon, or maybe they might believe like the stars is really God's salt, and that's what they really believe it is. And if you believe in,
I'll tell you what, leave the flat earth conspiracy behind, join the bigger and louder crew.
I agree.
Love you for who you are, and you can leave all that nonsense in the dust. Well, that was our first Get the Fuck Out of Here segment, and Anthony has absolutely knocked it out of the park. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Bigger and Louder with Anthony and John. Have a great one, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Love you.